one that I tend to get the most questions about because it is so weird. When you're looking at this pattern, that part of it is something that just doesn't make sense. The thing I want to do with this pattern, because I do like this pattern a lot, is I want to use these fabrics. So when I first thought about it, I was thinking it would be kind of fun to make the big bag. That's the only one I have not made yet. I've made this one and I've made the little one. So I've made the medium about 4 times and I made the little one once. If I'm answering the question of how to install the top, then I'm not really going to have to focus too much on the fabric. And if I want to, I can take this jelly roll and make my fabric. I think it would be fun. I'm going to go ahead and open this now, and there we go. Okay, so as you can tell, these pre-cuts in the jelly roll are the companion and matching fabrics to the fat quarters here. So we have Fox. Looks like there are 4. We have what I'm going to call raindrops. I don't know why they remind me of raindrops, but maybe they're supposed to be mushrooms, but I think they're raindrops. So we have 4 of those, and then we have little gray mushrooms. There are 4 of those. We have the little Aztec-y stripes, 4 of those, and then we have Fox and Friends. And there are 4 of those. So if these are 2.5 inches, let's see. Yes, they are perfect at 2.5. And one thing to note when you're buying a pre-cut jelly roll, sometimes they will have a little sawtooth. It looks like a very fine pinked edge, and that can make or break your 1/4 inch seam allowance. So you might, if you have one with those and you're going to be very strict with yourself about that 1/4 of an inch, you might have to either allow for it with some math or cut them off. And then, of course, that would adjust the size of your jelly roll strips. So let's take a look at the pattern pieces. To my knowledge, I don't recall if I have cut out the large size. Okay, so for the large bag, we need, I'm going to look right here where it tells us what sizes. These are the piece numbers, and then off to the side in parentheses we have this size. So I'm going to take care of that. We are going to need piece 15 is a large, so you can see front pocket large. Piece 16 is the front and back of the large. So I'm looking for piece number 16, which is right there. Okay. And then the strap, I think, is set. The strap is 3. There it is right there. And that's the same for all 3 bags. Well, on this particular bag, I'm going to add 2 things that are not part of this pattern. They're the same thing, but they're going to be two of them. One is an inside keychain that is attached to the inside of the bag, and the other one is an outside keychain that is attached to the outside of the bag. So whether I use them for keys or not, they will be there. I don't know if you're familiar with the way new cars are working, but the keys are like almost superfluous. You just have to have them to be in the vehicle, otherwise it'll have a fit. So it's just kind of weird. My plan for this bag is I'm going to use these fabrics in a different way. I think I will use one or two for the lining. Maybe. I might just use something completely different. These I am going to strip piece. Yeah, kind of like that. In the middle, or actually. The little porcupine, the feet on the owl, the front chest of the owl, the stripes on the fox, they're all gray on a white background. The mushrooms are white on a gray background. And then we have this transition fabric right here, and we're moving into the raindrops, or whatever they are, little flying saucers. They look like raindrops to me. Maybe they're diamonds, I don't know. They're going to be raindrops, I think. I don't know. They're more, that's just more of a woodland idea than a UFO. Okay, so that and that go together, and this, of course, our little fox and our raindrops, and then again with the transition fabric. So, if I need more than that, then I'll probably repeat the transition fabric. But I'm going to take a quick check and see. Piece 15. Oh, it's going to be a lovely bag. Ooh, nice. Okay, so this is the size of the pocket, and I'll get into that when we begin to stitch. But let's look at piece 16, which is the front and the back. Obviously I've not cut this one out, I can already tell. Okay. Yes, I am going to need one more stripe. So I will be using this one for that. And I will flip it. Now I will tell you right away, whenever you have a stripe fabric like this and you receive a strip set, I think there's one person that I can think of who would probably be able to cut this straight, and that is Matt Jordon of Jordon Fabrics in Oregon. But he does Matt's cuts, and he does all of the cutting of their fabric. I don't know for sure, but there's a very good chance that he would be able to cut this straight. As you can see, this is not cut straight. This is cut crooked. It doesn't bother me. Not in the least does it bother me. It appeals to me on a weird level. Okay, so if I'm trying to just like make up a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and if I choose to use a bigger one or a smaller one, as long as my pattern piece fits, I'm okay with that. Okay, it is literally just falling off by a fraction of an inch. So I think I don't need to use a full piece of fabric. What I can do is just simply cut this down to a smaller, tiny smaller amount. I'm looking forward to making the McCall's Fashion Accessories M5822 one more time in the large size. I haven't done that one yet, and I could use a larger bag. I have several tote bags that I just adore, but they don't have a zipper top and they're not structured. And I love the way this little rounded side piece forces this bag to have some structure. It also, in my opinion, negates the need for buckram. So if you really want a stiff cloth bag, feel free to use it. If you cannot find buckram, I would suggest that you go to the arts and crafts section of any of your favorite stores, Joann, Michael's, Hobby Lobby. They have that plastic, it's got holes in it, and you can tie yarn. I think people used to do needlepoint on them. They made coasters and things like that. It will do the same thing. So I would look for that. I'll try to remember to pop a picture of what I'm talking about on the screen right here so that you'll be able to see what I'm referring to. Hey guys, so today is the day where I will be stitching up the jelly roll strips. So this will be the first time that I've made the large bag, and it measures, oh, let's see, the large bag is 16.5 by 13.5. So in comparison, the medium is 14 by 10.5, and the small is 12 by 8.5. Now for comparison, I actually have the small here, and I will do, when I'm finished making the large, we'll have the small one and the large one side by side. So today, what I plan to do is clean up the mess from what is on my desk. I haven't done that yet. Get this pattern packed back up the way it's supposed to be. I do need to do some trimming. I haven't got this large size completely cut out. And decide how I want the strips to go. The piece number, what it is, the company, the pattern number, what size it is, and what you are supposed to do with this has been printed outside of the pattern piece. I have no idea why they do that. But what I tend to do is I will cut out the information and tape it, or I will write it on the pattern. So I'm going to go ahead. This line right here is the pattern line. This is the piece that I get a lot of questions about. It is the top of the bag. So for reference, I'll show you what I mean. We are talking about step number, no, it's on the second page, 28, 6. Okay, yeah. Oh, this poor pattern piece, or instruction sheet. Okay, so this right here, lots of shadows. This rectangular piece right there is what this is right here. and it's a puzzler. A lot of questions have been forwarded to me. I've had individuals track me down through Facebook and ask me to help, which I've done. I've had YouTube questions, just you name it. So I'm going to take strips, and I need to figure it out. So I'm going to leave a good 1/2 inch at the top, and I'm not doing this for the pattern. I'm just doing this for the width. So my thoughts are with these solid pieces from the, well, not solid, but you know what I mean, these larger pieces from the Fat Quarter bundle, these would make great pockets, top piece, you know, anything where I need a large piece on top of my pieced bag front and back. So these will definitely come in handy. Okay, and the other thing I have to do is choose a thread color. And I have this Gutermann value pack that I purchased. And I think if I wanted a contrast, I could go with this one. It's a little contrasty. There is this one. Kind of liking that one, and then there is this one. So let's look at these colors. Let me get you down a little bit lower. Okay. So this one is color number 659 Gutermann. It is 100% polyester, and if you look, it almost perfectly matches this piece, and then it picks up some of the other colors. So in our little fox set, that's not too bad. So I'm liking that one. This one is already, I can see it's just too pink. There's still a little bit too much red in this. So set that one aside. And then we have this really pretty color number 191, and it's the same type. It looks really pretty with this, but it's not the same color. This is more of a blue and this is more of a green. So let's pop over. And this is just too dark. This blue is too dark. Alright. So here's the thing, I think I'm going to go with color number 659. It's spelled creative without an E on the end. If that helps. Okay, I need to decide the 8 that I'm going to have coming forward and the 8 that I'm going to have on the back. Are they going to match? Are they going to be different? Will it just be willy-nilly random? I don't know. Alright, so here we are, set and ready to go. So the next step I have is I've got my piece 1, and I am going to stitch piece 2 right sides together with a seam. The thing I need to be aware of is my directional print So do I want, when I open this up, this is piece number 1 on my bag, and at current time the mushrooms are facing down and the foxes are correctly oriented for that view. So what I need to do is keep the mushrooms facing up and the little foxes, now if I put them this way, they'll be facing down. So I'll turn this over, and then when I make that stitch, they'll be correct. The other thing you have to remember is which side you're stitching on. So just get all that sorted out. Line up your long raw edge, and if you want to pin that or clip it with clover clips or wonder clips, of course you can do so. I'm going to use my 1/4 inch mark right here on my sewing machine. I think I'll push this back up to a faster speed, and here we go. Oh, I also need to, there's all these little, I'm not real sure what that, oh, that's needle up, needle down. Okay, all right. All right, let's see if we've done this correctly. So this is the top of the bag, the very top part, and then our little foxes. So the mushrooms are correct, and the little foxes and the owls and the hedgehog seem to be correct. So the next step is to press that seam. I'm going to finger press this time, and then I'll go back and use the iron. I know if I turn that iron on, I'm probably going to have a meltdown. Alright, they have been stitched and pressed. So I have 2 identical, well, as far as the pattern goes, they are identical. So the next thing that needs to happen is piece number 16, which is the front and the back, will be cut from these 2 pieces of fabric. You cut 2 out of the fabric, you cut 2 out of the buckram, and you cut 2 out of the fleece. I'm not using buckram. I believe I mentioned that in my video yesterday. So So there's the front and the back. They should have been cut out like this, or with the right sides together, not stacked the way I had them. That was not a good idea. Okay, so now you will notice that we have some lines drawn here, and those are where the handles on the bag go. And they will need to be marked kinda, and I'll explain what I mean by that in just a second. The pocket, which I'm going to cut from one of the fat quarter pieces. Oh, my fingernail just grabbed on. The pocket fits in between these sets of straps. Let's find that piece. It's number 15, I believe. Yes. Okay. And it goes like this. Let me get that folded in half. Okay. So this is how it fits onto the front of the bag, or the back of the bag, and the straps will go right over the top of these edges. So these edges do not have to be finished. Let's take a piece of fabric. I need to decide which one I want to use. Okay, so we have these foxes. Fold it in half and pretend. Okay. Or we have the fox fabric with the tealish background for the pocket. And then we have this raindrop fabric. We have the mushroom fabric, and we also have the striped fabric that Maisie, the ragdoll, is using as a robe. If there's anything I've learned through sewing, it's that when you have something like a bag and you're going about your business out in the world, you're shopping, you're putting your purse in your vehicle or whatever it is that you're transporting yourself on or in, you're taking it in with you, you're dragging it around. I know I do. You go to a restaurant, you go to, a tea shop, you go to the grocery store, whatever. This gets grimy. It's no different than this getting grimy, but this just typically shows that a little bit more than this would. So if you're wondering, that is why I chose the gray for the top, because as we zip and unzip and zip and unzip, this definitely starts to show that wear and tear. So, alright, so I've decided already that I'm not going to use this one as the outer pocket. I'm only going to put one pocket on. In the past, I have put this pocket on both the front and the back, but through use, I have discovered that I don't use both of those pockets. We're going to do just a kind of a quick run through to kind of talk about terms and what they mean bys and that kind of thing. When you open up a pattern like this, you will have all the pattern pieces folded up together, and you are required to cut them out. They don't come pre-cut. You will have pages like this that have instructions that tell you what to do with all those pattern pieces, and then basically step by step. Some people will argue that they don't go step by step. I have to be one of those people. I think sometimes I do overlook or skip. Usually, especially of the big four, McCall, Simplicity, Butterick, Vogue, you will have a guide drawing, and you will have a list of pattern pieces with their numbers, and then a actual word text version of this. It will tell you that there are in this particular case there are 20 pattern pieces. So just like a jigsaw puzzle, if it says there's 1,000 pieces, you open it up, you count, and there's only 999, then you know you're missing a piece. So that's kind of why they tell you that. You know you're going to have 20 pieces in the pattern. It's also a good way to decide if you see it says, say, 10 pattern pieces, but there are 3 bag sizes. Something is kind of weird. It's just a good way to check and make sure, is that right? Is that really true? Then you'll know, okay? Alright, so it goes through and it tells you pretty well spelled out. We'll just look at the first few. The piece number 1 is the front pocket for the small bag. And then piece number 6 is the front and back lining for the small. Piece 20 is the top for the large. So as you can see, they're all described and explained. Okay. Now all of this up here is a way of letting you know what they mean by certain markings. So if you see a line with an arrow like this, that means grain line. That's almost a universal symbol for grain line. This means that you're going to be placing your fabric on the fold of the fabric. The straight line, a long line, a straight line, capping off the long line like a really wide H means that's a buttonhole marking. So you just have those and you just look at those and just say, oh, okay, so my pattern might have some of these, but then again it might not. For example, we know this particular bag does not have a button on it, so there's not going to be a buttonhole marking line. The main thing to pay attention to in this part of the pattern instruction is what the cutting layout information is. So right here it says cutting layout, and then this is basically all relating to your fabric and your pattern. So a blank with nothing on it means that it is supposed to indicate the right side of the pattern, and the right side of the pattern is the side of the pattern that has printing on it. So just because you can read through a pattern piece like this piece number 17, if we flip it around, we can still see words and letters and so forth. But that's the wrong side, because that's not how a 17 looks, and that's not how you spell McCall's. But this is the right side. That is a correct 17, and that's how you spell McCall's. So this is the right side. Almost always the right side of the pattern is indicated by that blank, nothing in it, right there. Then the wrong side of the pattern is a series of dots on top of that blank. So you flip your pattern piece over if you see this. If you see a fully grayed out section, it is the right side of the fabric. And then this, that kind of mimics this, is the wrong side of the fabric. So if that is on the fabric, it means it's the wrong side of the fabric. If that is on the pattern, then obviously it is for the pattern. Those are the only two things that you might really have to pay attention to. Okay, and then you're going to get into the cutting layout. So the small bag will be the first one in this particular case. You flip this over and we'll have the medium bag, and I marked that with a star because I kept losing where I was. And we keep going and keep going, and then the large bag starts right here. So because I'm working on the large bag, I am going to take my red pen and I'm just going to draw a rectangle. So I will remember that that is where I am supposed to be looking. Okay. So this is going to tell you how to lay out your bag. And for us, we have piece number 16, and you can see they do have their fabric folded just the way I said. My fabrics should have either been right sides together or wrong sides together, not stacked like this or like this. I got lucky though. I just got so excited about that fabric I wasn't thinking about what I was doing. And we don't want to make that mistake again. Okay, so this is the right side of the pattern piece, piece number 16. It's blank, it doesn't have any dots on it, so it's facing up. This is the wrong side of the fabric that matches this. This right here is the wrong side, but that right there, that filled in gray, is the right side. So you know, right sides of fabric together. The fold of the fabric is right here, and you're going to place piece 16 right there and piece number 20 right there. And then we're going to look at the contrast number 1, and for the large bag we'll be using piece number 8 and 17. So here is how they're showing you that that will be put together. So right sides of the fabric together, and then piece number 17 is right here, and piece number 8 is right there. Then we go up to contrast number 2. We're going to use piece number 3, and for the large bag we're going to be cutting several of piece number 3. Let's see what it says on the pattern. She said, and then couldn't find piece number 3 to save her life because everything is such a mess. Okay. So when you make a K-Wit design pattern, you're going to notice one thing in particular. Her straps are often kind of confusing. It will make sense, but then again, it will kind of, it's hard to grasp. So here it is, and we're going to use the same strap for all 3 sizes. So I'm using the same strap for the large bag. The difference is for the large bag, which is says right there, I'm going to be cutting it shorter than I would the medium bag. All right, so here is where the medium edge is, right here. Here is the small, and then all the way up here is the large. And you might think to yourself, wait a minute, why would the large be smaller than the medium and the small? Well, you're going to be attaching your fabric, and you're going to make a very long strap for the large. Okay, now up here we have our sewing information. The sewing information is different from the cutting out information. So it's going to tell you this is the right side of the fabric, this is the wrong side of the fabric. Now this means interfacing. This right here with the lines drawn through it on both will be the lining. So these are your lining, these are your fabrics, and this is the interfacing. It talks about seam allowances. Now in a bag, you generally will use bigger, beefier seam allowances. In this case, we're using a 1/2 inch seam allowance, unless otherwise indicated. So if something is going to be different, it will be in the instructions. As you're going along, it'll say use a 5/8 inch seam allowance or an 1.5 inch seam allowance. But it will be in this where you're actually sewing your pieces together. So just assume everything is a 1/2 inch unless it's changed in the instructions. So they want you to pin it or baste the seams with the right sides together. You're going to match the notches, fit it together. It says garment, but this isn't a garment. Before stitching any major seams. You do kind of want to make sure that everything is going to line up before you start stitching. And then we'll press the seam allowances flat. Then we'll open them up unless otherwise stated, and you're going to clip. These are how you clip to the inside, and this is how you clip to the outside, and this is how you trim your corners. If it tells you to clip your seams into layers, this is how you would do that. And I don't recall if we have anything like that, but if we do, we'll talk about it as we go. Okay, so here it explains to you that sewing terms that appear in bold type in the sewing instructions are explained below. Edge stitch. So it is going to be right here in the instruction number 5. So up here it tells you what that means. Stitch close to the finished edge or the seam. So it's telling you that that's what you're going to be doing with this pocket. Stay stitch is 1/8 inch from the seam line in the seam allowance, usually a 1/2 inch from the raw edge. So if you see anything that says stay stitch, then there is the explanation. That's what they mean right here. And top stitch is on the outside, stitch 1/4 inch from the edge, the seam, or the previous stitching, using your presser foot as a guide. Most of the presser feet available are 1/4 inch from the needle. So you'll stitch where indicated in the instructions, and that's where the top stitch is on the pocket. So right there is a top stitch. All right. Now we start stitching. Now the instructions are going to be illustrated only in the size small. So if you see where it says piece 1, you're going to need to look for those pieces in parentheses. So piece 1 is this pocket, and it's a piece number 9 for the medium, and as we know, piece number 15 for the large. So if you need to mark that, you can. It can confuse you if you're going along and it says, what? Piece number 2? I don't have a piece number 2. If you just simply look in the instructions, it will tell you, I'm looking for piece 10, I'm looking for piece 8. We're just going to keep going, following the instructions. I'm not going to go over each individual because we will be doing this as we go. I just want you to know what to expect. So right here it tells you to fuse the interfacing to all of these pieces. For the lining, you're going to apply interfacing to the contrast number 4, or in our case number 17 section. Well, number 17 is, if I'm not mistaken, the lining. No, it is the side. That's correct. So it correlates to number 4. On the small is number 4, and ours is 17. So buckram, fleece, and interfacing will not be shown in any of the illustrations moving forward. They're just supposed to be attached. Okay? Then we're just going to keep going. We know we have an edge stitch, we have a top stitch. We need to work on both the front and the back. And here's where we're doing the strap, and it does call out the large. For the large bag, we're going to stitch 2 strap 3 sections together at one end, and that will give us that length that we need for the large bag. And that's done twice. So one strap is going to be stitched that way, and the other strap will be stitched that way. Okay, then we go to page 2 of our instructions, or I guess in this case 3. Alright, and we are all the way up to getting the straps stitched and put together, and Kwit Designs often has a different way of doing straps. To be honest, you can do these straps, you know, put them together the way you want to. They will work as long as you have the proper length. Okay, now at some point in here, I need to make a note. I am going to add a lobster claw clasp on a small tab somewhere in this area. I'll probably put it right here. The red right there is where I am probably going to put that. Alright, so the zipper has been chosen, which is good. And again, I will be shortening this because we only need 12 inches, and I will show you how to do that. And we're going to make, well, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. Okay, so I will be back tomorrow to try to get this whole bag done. Well, I was interrupted like, I don't know, 6 hours ago. This is the latest that I have ever attempted to do a video. But I know that we were talking about creating fabric for the side of this project. What I don't know is, do I want to try to find fabric that matches? Do I want to try to take these little pieces that I've cut the strips from, or I guess correctly worded, cut from the strips, because I do have some smaller pieces. Use the point like so. Well, it's like this. And then you can just have that opened up like that and use this to flatten it out. And it definitely makes for a very flat seam, which is good. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and continue stitching. I am ready to cut out piece number 17. There's this. Alright, so let's see, I had an unexpected interruption, but that's okay. I am going to go ahead and mark this piece right here. There it is. With the friction pin, there are dots in the corner, and they are going to line up with those dots that we made on the side piece. So they're pretty important. Okay. And you can sometimes get this ink to come through to the back, you know, the second piece of fabric. But if you can't, just fold back that corner and then you'll see after you've marked it just a little extra. It's just something you have to work out. So right here I can see where it's showing through. So I'm going to take this piece of fabric that I'm trying to mark right here. I'm going to fold it back to that mark that I can see barely shadowing through, and I'm going to mark, and that shows through to this side, which allows me to mark where I need to mark. And that is a little bit easier for me than removing the pattern piece and, you know, just kind of going through that big rigmarole. So I'll fold that back. I can see it shadowing through. I'll mark it and do like that. The other thing you can do, and I'll just kind of give you a quick demo, you've marked it on the pattern side, so just take a straight pin like this one and poke the straight pin straight through the center of this circle right here. So you just kind of want to go right. It's easier if you can set it down on something. I'll try to do it like that. Okay, so where this has come out, you'll see I've got a mark there. If I didn't have a mark there, I could just lay it down like this, have the pen straight up, and then take my marker, whatever I'm using, chalk or friction ink or water erase, whatever, and just mark around where the pen, the straight pen, has emerged, and then you have a mark on both pieces of fabric. Okay, so the way this particular piece works in this pattern is you will have this piece folded in half, like so. This piece folded in half, like so. And your zipper will fit Where is it? There it is. And keep in mind the zipper is longer. I need to make it a 12-inch zipper, and it is actually a 17-inch, so don't let that bother you. And to resize a zipper, you always, well, I can't say always. Always is such a final word. But in my case, with this particular zipper, I would only trim from the very end of the zipper. If you trimmed from this end, you won't have a place for your zipper pull to stop, and it'll just slide right off. The same is true for down here. So if you do cut this zipper to create a smaller zipper, you have to stitch through it to prevent the pull from just sliding all the way off like a continuous zip. So anyway, we will shorten that up. These are the two top pieces. Now, a lot of people will cut the zipper just a little bit longer than it needs to be. It doesn't have to be exactly 12 inches. If you do that, it gives you the opportunity to put a little fabric tab on the end, and I'm going to cut it a little bit longer just in case I decide to do that. So let's go out here where you can see what I'm doing. All right, and I'm measuring from my zipper pull, not here. Most zippers are installed with that folded back anyway, so that measurement doesn't count. I'm measuring from the zipper pull. Okay. Okay, I just don't feel like I have enough extra. I'm going to go 12.5. Like so. Okay. Now I'm going to put a pin just this side of the line that I just drew. And what that does is it helps ensure that if for some crazy reason I have decided to cut my zipper off, this end of the zipper off, the pins won't allow my zipper pull to go beyond them. Okay, now the thing I want to do is make sure that when I unzip that it's not going to go past this. And I want to look at it, I want to examine it, make sure that it can't possibly pass through this block that I've created. And it doesn't appear that it can. I'm going to leave a little bit extra past this and cut carefully. Okay. And a lot of people will take a lighter and burn that. I'm going to go grab a lighter and I'll show you what I mean. Alright, so this happens to be like one of the only available lighters I have is for grills. But anyway, so I'm going to just get this. Oh, I don't think it lit. There we go. I can feel it on my hand. There it is. Okay. So that will keep that from fraying. Alright, so we have that part done. Not the prettiest thing in the world, but it will be hidden from view and I'm not concerned about it. Alright, so we have the two top pieces. We have the outer side piece. We have our front and our back piece. So now I have to decide what I want to do for the side. I've got to find some fabric. Alright, so what I have is 180-degree water and my two pieces of fabric, which I will go ahead and put in here. Alright, and my black tea is in this tea ball, and I'm going to set the tea ball within this little extra strainer here. Okay, and I'm just going, whoa, that's hot. I'm going to pour the water right over the top. Wow, super hot. Okay. I'm going to let the tea develop in this way. Normally I wouldn't use metal, but it's all I have at the moment. And this is cooler and will help cool off the water a little, not a lot. Here are the tea-dyed fabrics for the lining, and I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. So the interesting thing about these patterns, especially this one, this particular pattern, this is a pocket right here that goes on the front of the bag. You could so easily use a clear plastic vinyl. You could use a small piece of very lightweight faux leather. You could use cork. You could use basically any fabric you wanted to use or material that you wanted to use. You could make your own piece of fabric. If you didn't care about things being seen, you could use a piece of clear vinyl behind a piece of crocheted fabric. There are so many things that you could do, especially with this pocket. So I urge you to be as creative as you want to be. You could even take two pieces of vinyl that are clear and sandwich something, flower petals, buttons, any kind of colorful things between the two pieces. A piece of artwork that your child has made, you could put in the middle between the two pieces, and then you would have that forever and ever and ever in the pocket until you decided to take it out and use it for something else. So that would be a fun way to make the pocket kind of the highlight of your bag. Okay. So we have the two lining pieces cut, and we have the two front and back, well, we have the front and back cut. We have our two tops. I will need to press these. That will be sandwiched, not sandwiched, but will be sandwiching the zip. I am going to make a tab for this, for the end of this zipper, and I'll show you how. So I'm going to take one of my little pieces of fabric, like this little fox fabric right here. Let me cut this free. And you don't really need a big piece of fabric to do this. It is easy, really easy to do. So I'm going to fold it in half like this. I will tell you what the measurement of this one is. So it's 2.5 this way, and it is 2.5 this way. So it's 2.5 by 2.5. My zipper is 1 inch wide. So I'm going to fold my little piece of fabric like so. I'm going to open it up, and then I'm going to fold the raw edges in, and I'm finger pressing, or if you prefer, if you don't like to do that with your fingernails, you can use the rounded beveled edge of your point turner if you have one. It does such a good job. And then we'll do the same thing on the other, and I'm just folding about 5/8 of an inch to the inside. We want those raw edges to the inside. Okay, now we're going to refold that in half, like so. And we're going to fold down the top and the bottom and do the same thing. So I'm folding a little bit more, about 1/2 inch on the top and the bottom, like so. And I want this a little bit wider than my zipper pull, than the end of my zipper. So let's see if I'm where I wanted it to be. Okay. Now I will need to press it. I've got these edges that need to be kept to the inside. I don't want these edges to come to the outside, but I'm leaving them because I want this to be a little sturdy. And if you have a hard time getting those to lay flat, an ironing board is always a good idea. Just, you know, press it with your iron. Get those to stay down. Oh, and another thing you can do to help with that process is to use either a clear children's glue like Elmer's, or you can also use with a dog hair on it, your glue stick. Just go all the way around the outer edges with your glue stick. I don't recommend at all that you use hot glue. It would make the biggest mess. Okay. Okay. Gotta trim out these threads right here. That one in particular. But there it is. This is the top part of the zipper, and this is the bottom part of the zipper. I actually like the idea of having a ring on the outside, and the reason for that is it would be really difficult for someone looking to steal something to remove it from a ring. Now remember, this is not in the pattern. This is just something I wanted to add, and that's always an option for any purse that you make. Now let's see, what else? I've got these cut out. Alright kids, I have decided I'm going to go with one pocket, and I am going to use this fabric. I kind of went back and looked at the smallest bag on the pattern is the one that I made for myself the last time I did this, and I don't actually really use both of the pockets on the inside. Now I do use the outer pockets a lot, but the one in the bag, I have two on each side, and I only use one. So knowing that, I think I'll be alright if I just use, or just create one pocket. And decide what I want to use for the lobster claw. It will have to be wide enough to accommodate that D-ring, which is that a full inch? No, it is probably 7/8 of an inch wide. So it's been a long time since I ordered those, and I don't remember what the width was, but I did order a big old pack of them on Amazon, I think 3 years ago. Alright, I've made some adjustments to the lighting in the room and to the camera. I hope it works. Alright, so with the batting quilted down, so same thing for this piece right here, and possibly all of the lining pieces. Here's the pattern piece, and as you can see, there's only one line on the fold line. It's right here. It doesn't indicate that we have to do a specific number of lines of stitching. So the pattern tells us to edge stitch and top stitch. Now I've made this bag, this will be my 5th time, and I don't know why in the world they would want us to edge stitch, and I don't recall doing it in the past. I might have skipped it, or I might have just said, no, we're not doing that. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch right along this edge here, and then across the bottom, and then I'm going to stitch down on this. So I'm going to stitch with a basting stitch, stitch down and stitch across, and then I'm going to turn it over and stitch down again. That just kind of keeps everything straight. When I've done that, I'm going to do one top stitch right across the top here. I don't believe I need to do 2 rows of edge stitching. I know I don't need to baste. Okay, so to baste, I'm going to up my stitch length as high as it will go, which is 5. I'm going to make sure that these 2 edges are straight together, raw edges even. Okay. And I'm going to go all the way across, holding my fabric together. If you want to use pins or clips, absolutely do so. Alright, I'm going to stitch off of that, remove my project, and flip it over, and then I'm going to baste from the top to the bottom. Okay, now I'm going to put my stitch length back to 2.5, and I'm going to top stitch like we said. Okay, so there's that line of top stitching, and there's some basting. So the next step is to pin the front pocket to one front and back section. I'm only doing one pocket, I'm not doing 2. So I can choose either one of these sections I have here, whichever one I want. Pin the front pocket to one front and back, matching the placement lines and the small circles, and baste. Okay, so they want us to baste it in place. They clearly want us to use as much thread as possible. And I guess just because I will go ahead and do that. You know how I feel about basting and wasting. Okay. So we're just going to baste right along the same line that we used before. Okay. And I will tell you, I'm not basting across the bottom. We don't need to do that. And again, it's a waste of thread. So I'll just baste along the 2 sides. We're going to be making the strap that will go on the front of the bag. Alright, so I have applied a strip of the batting down the center of 2 of the straps. The other 2 straps will be stitched in such a way, I want to make sure I've got the one that I want, with each of these. Yes. Okay. This one appears to be slightly longer, but I'm not going to concern myself with that at the moment. I'm going to go ahead, even though the instructions tell us to press these two in. I'm going to stitch this stitch first. It has very little to do with the other side, and I'm seated, so I'm going to go ahead and do it. Okay, so before I continue with the stitching, I wanted to show you, this is what it looks like. So you have your little piece of batting sandwiched in there, and this is this. Okay, that's now where it needs to be. Now I'm going to suggest that you check it visually, because with your fabrics done the way I've done mine, sometimes you can end up with sort of a strange optical illusion, and if you have that going on, you want to make sure that it looks right. You want to make sure that the same distance between this outer edge and here and this outer edge and here is the same. From what I can tell, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 1, 2, 3. I feel like it's off a little bit on this side. Yes, I believe it is. Okay. One, two, three, 4. 1, 2, 3. Yes, okay, now they are correct. Okay, and then the next thing that we need to do is, if I'm not mistaken, this is where there was some confusion as well. We will be stitching across the bottom, right here. Just fold it back. Okay. Alright. So the way it gets stitched on is very hard to see on the pattern. Right, let me use a red pen. Okay. So right here, there is a stitch line that goes horizontally across, but it's so hard to see here. So I'm going to make a note right there. I'm going to circle that, by the way, on both sides, because it is on both sides. Now they may have made improvements on the patterns after this one, But this one does not have a very good illustration of that instruction. So it's right here. Let's see, I can't really unfold it very well. This is the piece of paper that was damaged, and I used another piece of paper to try to save it. So I'll try to do it like this. Okay. So right there, right there, there's a circle. That's what they're talking about when they say pivoting across the strap. So we're going to go stitch, pivot, stitch, pivot, and come down. That's what they're talking about right there. So let's get this one done. And then if you are putting a pocket on both the front and the back of your bag, like the pattern suggests that you do, then you'll have to do this on both sides. So here's this, I'll set it aside. I need to mark the strap lines on the back, even though we're not putting a pocket on the back. Okay, so it looks like I have a couple of threads hanging off. There's one. Okay, right there.